And joining us right now for the Dolphins side of things that keeps getting more and more interesting is the columnist from the Miami Herald, Omar Kelly. Good to see you, Omar. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Rich. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, let's start with the most fresh piece of everything. My colleague Tom Pelissero reporting before we went on the air that the Dolphins are going to fill the void left by trading Jonnu Smith with Jaylen Ramsey to the Steelers. By trading for Darren Waller and bringing him out of retirement, and he's going to be the tight end in Miami. Your first blush thoughts on that, Omar?
It doesn't surprise me from this standpoint. Steve Ross is an owner who likes to swing for the fences. I just didn't know. I thought it was a possibility, especially with the connection to Drew Rosenhaus and Waller. I just didn't know if Waller was ready to get back to playing football again, and it looks like he is.
Yeah, I guess so, and I guess that's the Giants' gain out of nowhere is that he wants to come out of retirement and they could at least get something for him. And so he just plugs in where Jonnu Smith is, and we were all wondering where they're going to find a tight end at the top of July with training camp, but there he is, right?
Absolutely. Darren Waller's established himself as an elite player in this league. Most people would know about his substance abuse issue and how he's basically rebuilt his life. And, he's got a great story. Yes, last year he stepped away from football because obviously he didn't find the love for it, went to be a rapper, and now I guess he's back. The rap career didn't take off.
He went back into his lane, I guess, right, Omar?
Hey, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Shaq went platinum.
Right.
You never can underestimate these guys.
I know. And who talks about Kazam right now these days, right, Omar? Nobody talks about it unless we bring it up to Shaq. But at any rate, so that's the news there. Let's, obviously revisit the Jaylen Ramsey portion of this. Can you explain why somebody of Jaylen Ramsey's caliber got traded away by a Dolphins team that could clearly use him?
Well, Jaylen Ramsey, if to best describe him, he's a mercenary. He's a gun for hire. The Dolphins traded for him 2 years ago to make a title run, but they just aren't in that position right now. They are a team that's clearly rebuilding and getting younger. And unfortunately, Jaylen and Mike McDaniel or Jaylen and the culture of the locker room wasn't a good fit. And the Dolphins feel like they have to change the culture of the team and of the locker room. And that meant that Jaylen Ramsey had to go. Now, fortunately for them, they found somebody who was willing to not only trade for him, but take on his massive contract. Most people don't realize this, but the Dolphins are going to eat $18.5 million in cap space because of the contracts and because of the trade and because of the contracts with Jaylen Ramsey. So it's not like the Dolphins are taking this victory lap for moving Ramsey, but they're certainly happy that he's somewhere he wants to be and that they also got good value for him in Minkah Fitzpatrick. But, another component of that was the Jonnu Smith. They traded 2 Pro Bowlers for 1 Pro Bowler and a 5th-round pick, and now we see what that second move is.
Oh, yeah, I know the second move being Darren Waller. So I guess Dolphins fans might ask the question, Omar, is how does this make the Dolphins better? How does this make them better?
It makes them better from the standpoint Waller's probably a more accomplished player than Jonnu Smith, who did have a career year with the Miami Dolphins, set franchise records in every category. But he was also 30. Jonnu, really, the situation with Jonnu was the Dolphins were happy with him. He was just under contract for $4 million, and the Pittsburgh Steelers gave him 12. So he tripled his salary in one season by getting traded to Miami. So it's going to be interesting to see what they give up for Darren Waller and whether or not this is something that makes the offense better, because Tua did have a tremendous amount of chemistry with Jonnu Smith.
Okay, so let's talk Tua since we just landed on him. There is obviously this is all contingent on him, right? I mean, every move we just discussed, even on defense, we could talk about how Minkah is going to bring a different maybe locker room vibe than Jaylen Ramsey, and that might be an addition by subtraction right there just for Mike McDaniel and team chemistry and what have you. But, I can speak from personal, viewing, as we all could. If Zach Wilson's in there, it's a different story, Omar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what is – I know Tua was talking about playing with a better sense of self-preservation. What does that look like, do you think, Omar?
We saw it at times in the 2023 season. He saw the pressure coming and he just immediately went to the ground. This is a situation where Tua has to learn how to throw the ball away. Even in practice, that's just not something that he operates doing. He buys time, he waits, and then he throws it. At some point, you got to start learn how to throw that ball away. I think it's probably and stay in the pocket. Tua is well aware that this Dolphins team only goes as far as he can take them, and that requires him to stay healthy. Unfortunately, he's only done that for one of his 5 NFL seasons.
Yeah, and so, Tyreek Hill is still there, even though it appeared at the end of last season when the season was over. He said something publicly that made it sound like he was going to demand a trade. Chris Greer had to talk about it publicly. It seems to be back in the bottle right now, but is that something that could bubble to the surface once regular season rubber hits the road?
Absolutely. I think if they're losing, you're going to see a disgruntled Tyreek Hill. People don't understand in that situation at the end of that Jets game, Tyreek was frustrated by his situation. This is the first time in his 9-year career that he never made it to the postseason. That just was not satisfactory. And then, as I said, for 2 minutes and 20 seconds, he said all the right things a captain should. He talked about things that happened during the season, and said all the right things. And then, like that, a switch flip, and Tyreek became Tyreek, and basically said, you know what, if this is not a situation I want to be part of. Now, that was speaking from emotion. As time progressed, Tyreek realized how well the Dolphins organization has treated him and his family throughout the years. He realized he just got a new contract, and basically said, you know what, I'm really changing my tune in terms of wanting out. I'm going to give this one more try. But to me, I personally believe that they're not winning. You might see Tyreek Hill on the trade block by the trade deadline.
Man, that would be something else. I mean, but you take a look at this team, though, and in Mike McDaniel's image of wanting to be fast and quick and get a guy who, like Tua, can get the ball out quickly and accurately. You look at Hill, Waddle, Westbrook-Ikhine, I thought was a terrific pickup from Tennessee right there. Achane, Jalen Wright. I mean, this is a quick team. And the question is when it all comes down to it, cold weather, what happens? I mean, it's the age-old question about the Miami Dolphins, right? But
it's speed and it's finesse, but it's not necessarily what they need. They need physicality. They need toughness. And that's part of what changing the culture of the team has really been about. When adversity hits, they generally buckle to it. And you have to be tough mentally, you have to be tough physically, and you have to play for one another and care about one another. During OTAs, Bradley, I've always heard the same thing about changing the culture around here, but Bradley Chubb was the first one to admit, hey, when we said it last year, we were probably lying. We didn't work that hard to be a team that's a collection of. We were just a bunch of individuals, and that comes to Jaylen Ramsey, a mercenary. Everybody was out for themselves. Everybody focused on themselves. Now they have to focus on building a better team, a better unity, and leaders have to step up, and that includes Tua.
All right, and you just mentioned Bradley Chubb in our couple minutes left with Omar Kelly and Miami Herald. You mentioned Chubb, obviously, certainly with Jaylen Ramsey gone. I'm looking at the defensive depth chart right now, and the 2 starting corners for the Dolphins are listed as second-year players Storm Duck and Jason Marshall Jr., who they snagged in the 5th round in Green Bay's in the 1st round of the draft. That's who they have listed. But the point is like you got to get home at the quarterback to help that unit out for sure. What is the scoop with Chubb and Jalen Phillips?
They're both going to be ready for the season opener.
That's good.
Both worked in the offseason program. You got to add Chop Robinson to that equation as well. When you pair all 3 pass rushers with Zach Sealer, you basically have 4 players who have the potential to be double-digit sack guys. So they will certainly use the pressure that they can create to sort of help out the secondary.
Well, and I can personally attest as well. I'm a Michigan guy. That Kenneth Grant kid is one of the best Michigan's had in the middle of a defensive line. And I know Christian Wilkins is gone, and some fans missed him. This guy is the real deal, Kenneth Grant.
Okay.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for him, Omar.
Now, was he eating off Mason Graham's plate?
No. The 2 of them together. Just watch the Ohio State tape, Omar, because it's some of my favorite tape of all time. Literally, like I'll just pop it in every now and then. He's great. You're gonna love him. You're gonna love him.
Thanks.
So that's the idea. Yeah. So thanks for the time, Omar. Really appreciate your 2 cents on the subject matter. Thank you, sir.
All right. Always a pleasure.
You bet. That's Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald here on the Rich Eisen Show. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.